I'm too sleepy to be reading this right now. Wake up! Yee! Hi, everybody. Welcome to another read-along? That's a good word for them. We can call them read-alongs. Because there's text there. You can read along. Anyway, this is The Party Incident and Other Embarrassing Anecdotes by Poubelle-Squellete, I believe. if I pronounced it correctly. Alright, which is great. And Doodle Me Not has been so kind as to provide a beautiful thumbnail. Let me make this bigger just so for a second we can appreciate how big this is. Not big, how beautiful this is. Look at that. Isn't that pretty? Isn't that pretty? It's gorgeous. Beautiful. Beautiful. Anyway. Alright, there I am. You can witness me and my incredibly... Don't pay no attention to the crap on the bed behind me. Alright. I'm gonna have to remember to turn the volume down whenever there are parts with papyrus in it. So... This is a fic that is a reader insert romance fic, as far as I remember. Alright, Chapter 1. The Party Incident. Sometimes you wondered if you were put on this earth for God's amusement. Did the big guy upstairs enjoy watching a bumbling, blustering idiot traverse her way through life via one embarrassing situation after another? Probably. You know you would. Currently, you were hiding out in the coat closet of a stranger's house. You thought about the timeline of events that had to transpire for you to end up here. You took way too many units this semester, which meant you had to work fewer hours at your job. Since you worked fewer hours, you made less money. Instead of saving up what little funds you had, you depleted your bank account to buy new art supplies because that shit ain't cheap. Unfortunately, this meant that there was little money left over for things like groceries, which is why you decided to crash this party. You didn't really plan to become a party crasher, but when you were walking home from a late class, your nose caught the scent of something absolutely delicious, and your ears perked up at the sound of the thundering bass. You knew you wouldn't be able to stomach another night of mediocre ramen noodles, so you resolved to go in, get some food, and beer, if they had any, and then leave. It wouldn't be the first time you did this. College parties, unless you were in a top-tier fraternity or sorority, didn't exactly have bouncers keeping strangers out. Most of the time, the party-goers didn't even bat an eyelash when you walked in. All you had to do was pretend that you were invited, and most people just assumed you were allowed to be there. So you had walked up to the front door and walked in like you belonged, when you realized that you potentially made a huge mistake. See, it wasn't a run-of-the-mill college party that you walked in on. Oh no. The second you walked through the door, you saw that the house was filled wall to wall with monsters of various shapes, sizes, and colors. A lot of them were dancing, some were drinking. There were a few socializing off to the side. It was a regular party, but with monsters. You knew that you would probably stick out like a sore thumb if you stuck around, but you could see a few other humans here and there, so you chose to risk it. Besides, monster food had crazy energy replenishing qualities, which you could really use. So you put on your best smile and made your way over to the snacks and drinks. A few of the monsters standing around were surprised, but were very welcoming to your presence. "Here, have some potato chips. Try a Starfate." "No, if you want to have a good time, you need to down a CT." It was almost comical how your new monster buddies fussed over you. Much like how humans became fascinated with monsters when they came to the surface, monsters found an equal fascination in humans. You knew from experience that there were often residual effects from eating too much monster food, and monsters thought it was hilarious to see how humans reacted to it. You munched on the potato chips. They tasted almost exactly the same as regular potato chips, but like with all monster food, eating them created a magical spark in your mouth. Something similar to eating Pop Rocks. It was weird, but not unpleasant. After a few more chisps and a shot of sea tea, which was more or less like drinking water straight from the ocean, cold, salty, and filled with seaweed, you felt pretty content. Another benefit to eating monster food. It was surprisingly filling. You left the snack bar, intending on leaving. But the ghostly DJ started playing a remix of your favorite song. You hesitated, but decided it wouldn't hurt to stay for a few more minutes. One song and a few more minutes turned into dancing for nearly an hour. Much like your foodie monster pals, the monsters on the dance floor all welcomed you to the party. You danced with them until your feet started to hurt. Quickly excusing yourself, you moved to a quieter part of the party, a hallway off to the side, to take a breather. You knew you should probably leave soon, because someone was going to realize you weren't invited. "Hey, pal." You jumped and let out a small squeak. You turned to see a skeleton in a blue hoodie, hood up, hands in his pockets, leaning up against the wall. You placed a hand on your heart to try and calm yourself. "Hi," you greeted in return. "Not used to seeing your kind at these kind of parties, and I've been to a ton." He paused. "A skeleton." You blinked. Was that a pun? "Gotta ask, then. How'd you know Papyrus?" You didn't really know what a papyrus was, but you assumed that they were the host of the party. You knew you were stuck in a bit of a mess now. You were much too embarrassed to admit that you were just a party crasher, so you blurted out the first thing that came to mind. I'm dating their brother." The skeleton just stared at you. "Crap," you thought to yourself. "Does this papyrus even have a brother? Did I totally mess up? I should have just said I was friends with someone who came, god damn it." But then he gave you an easy smile. "Oh, didn't know Pap's bro was dating someone." You breathed a sigh of relief and said, "Yeah, we're keeping it on the down low for now." The skeleton hummed. Is it 'cause he's a monster?" "What? No, of course not. I'm not ashamed of dating a monster. Who cares these days anyways? Lots of humans date monsters now." You knew you were digging yourself into a very, very big pit of no return. "Good, 'cause he's a pretty swell guy. When'd you start dating?" You really wished he would stop asking you questions. Really recently." You started taking a few steps back. Maybe you could just excuse yourself quickly and make a beeline for the front door. The skeleton's smile widened. "How recently exactly?" It really isn't any of your business," you said, backing up a few more steps. "And now I really should be You bumped into something behind you. You turned around and were face to face with another skeleton. I have to remember to move away from my mic whenever I do press. "Oh, I'm sorry for bumping into you," he shouted down at you with a smile. He patted the top of your head, but then looked at you strangely. "I'm so sorry, human. I'm so sorry again, but human, I do not recognize you." He glanced over at the smaller skeleton standing behind you. "Brother, do you know her?" You felt a bony arm slide around your waist, and now the blue-hooded skeleton was at your side. "Yup, this is my girlfriend." "Wait." "What?" the tall skeleton exclaimed loudly. "How could you not tell me you were dating someone? Human, I deeply apologize. If I knew my brother had a girlfriend, I would have given you a personal invitation to the party." So you're Papyrus?" you asked meekly. "The one and only and greatest," Papyrus said boastfully. "I will make you some, you simply must join us for dinner. I will make you some artisan spaghetti." He paused and glanced at his brother, whose arm was still around you. "You haven't given her my spaghetti yet, have you?" he asked in a loud whisper. "Nope." "Great! So, you come back sometime soon, and I will make you a wonderful plate of my silken spaghetti." Papyrus patted the top of your head again. "Now I will leave you two to your canoodling." I'm going to pause real quick and make sure I'm not blowing out the levels. Hold on, be right back. Alright, so I definitely did blow out the levels a couple times there during Papyrus's exuberant dialogue. Sorry for that. Moving on, I have turned my microphone down significantly. Alright, so, yeah, I'm gonna try making this a little bit... Whoops, that's not right! God damn it. Okay, I made it smaller and lost my place. There we go. Alright. Once Papyrus left, the smaller skeleton snickered at you. Did I not mention that I was the brother? Didn't know I was into humans. You were absolutely mortified. You tore away from the skeleton's grasp and ran. Once out of sight, you ducked into a coat closet to recollect yourself. In hindsight, you figured you should have just ran out the front door, but you were afraid it would have caused too much of a commotion. So, here you are, inside a coat closet, wishing that the floor would open up and swallow you whole. Your entire face felt as though it were on fire, and you could barely hear the music over your deafening heartbeat. After sitting in the coat closet for another few minutes, you opened the door and slid out. A few monsters glanced in your direction and smiled knowingly. You cringed. Had Papyrus already told everyone here that you were dating his brother? You waved at them and made your way to the door. With the knob within hand's reach, you glanced one last time behind you. From across the room, you could see the skeleton in the blue hoodie staring at you. He winked. You shook your head and left. You decided never to crash another party again. Alright. Alright, well, the dogs are barking at something, so this seems like a perfect opportunity to stop reading and show you guys another wonderful picture that Doodle Me Not made of Sans. Look at that. So handsome. So sexy. Tumblr sexy man extraordinaire. Sans Undertale. Let me make this smaller so we can have this here. Alright. Just know that this belonged to the last chapter, but I'm leaving it here so that you guys can appreciate it. Alright, there you go. Moving on. You decided to never crash another party again. Chapter 2. The Drunken Dog Incident. Hangovers are never a pleasant experience. In fact, that is putting it incredibly mildly. Hangovers are made of 1 part regret, 2 parts nausea, and a sprinkle of Satan's hellfire. The pounding in your head was unbearable, and you made a silent but very empty oath to swear off drinking. Whoops, you could see it. The stale taste of vomit was still in your mouth, swirling with your spit and what you suspected was the horrific aftertaste of a $2 scotch. Never, ever drink cheap liquor again, you tell yourself. It only brings misery. Now all you could focus on was the foul taste in your mouth, so you removed the cool rag, that you don't remember getting yourself, from your face, and opened your eyes. Where the hell am I? You blearily stood up, regretting it almost immediately. You felt woozy and sat back down on the couch you were resting on. You closed your eyes. Did one of your friends bring you back to their apartment? You couldn't remember, but it seemed as though no one was home. You opened your eyes again and looked around. Simple living room, a couch, a recliner, a really nice TV, several books, some on the shelves and some on the floor, a lone sock sitting in the middle of the room. No photos, no college regalia, no sign of any pizza boxes or empty beer cans or notebooks or school supplies. You didn't really know where you were, but the house seemed strangely familiar. However, you couldn't really place your finger on where you had seen it before. You stood up again, slower this time, and tried to piece together what happened the night before. Flashback noise. Woo. You were at a weekend kickback. It wasn't your usual scene, but classes were hard, and your friends really wanted you to go. You agreed, partly due to your shitty professor getting on your ass about an art assignment you had yet to start, and partly due to your shitty boss switching you over to the morning shift. And there was nothing worse than opening shift at a coffee shop. You really needed to unwind, and you were only planning on having a beer or two, but it escalated when your friends brought out the really cheap, hard liquor and started doing shots. Drinking really wasn't a hobby of yours, but you thought, hey, what the heck, and went with it anyway. Several shots and a couple more beers, and you were, for lack of a better phrase, completely sloshed, and unable to drive home. You decided to walk back instead. Your apartment wasn't too far. You stumbled along the sidewalk until you heard a weird noise. Flashback to the present noise. You paused. That was all you could really remember. You carefully tiptoed around the house until you found the kitchen that you mysteriously already knew the location of. You took a cup from the dish rack and started filling it from the tap. You knew you should probably be a bit more worried that you were in a stranger's house, but you needed some water to quell your hangover. Then you would leave. Hey, pal. You yelped in surprise and dropped the cup into the sink. It made a loud clank sound, and you winced. You rubbed your head gently and turned around to your new... pal? Oh my God. I think you dropped something. Oh no. You felt your face redden and you started to sweat. You looked away from the skeleton who was now smirking at you. 2 weeks and not even a phone call. Are all human girlfriends this fickle? He reached around you to grab the cup, to fill it. He pulled back and handed you the cup, which you reluctantly took. The small skeleton looked exactly the same as he did when... Shut up, dogs! This is a funny part, dogs! Shut up! The small skeleton looked exactly the same as he did when you first met. Still in the same tattered blue hoodie, hands in his pockets now, and... God, he was giving you this look that showed just how much he was relishing in this moment. You awkwardly took a few sips of water. So... I hate to ask, but what am I doing here? The skeleton snorted. You mean you didn't drunkenly stumble up to my house last night to see me? I won't tell a fibula. That breaks my metaphorical heart, babe. You bristle at the nickname, but you push your embarrassment aside and you try again. Look, I don't really remember much of what happened last night, so... You couldn't believe this was happening. He studied you a moment before shrugging. Dunno, it was 3 a.m. That annoying dog keeps stealing our bone attacks was outside yapping. Oh, that's right. You were walking along the sidewalk when you heard the telltale sound of a dog's bark. You stopped to look. A small, white Pomeranian dog, probably named Toby, was bouncing around the yard, ready to be pet. You opened the gate and walked through, kneeling to pat the dog. It licked your face, and you cried. A new wave of embarrassment washed over you. You winced, and you could feel your cheeks burning. You didn't know what was worse, blacking out at Papyrus's doorstep, or crying uncontrollably just because you were so happy that a dog had licked your cheek. But then all my bro and I heard was crying, so I went outside to investigate. Surprised to see you, actually, he mumbled. And then you... He trailed off. He chuckled. I don't know if you want to hear anymore. You tried thinking back again. Some of the blanks were filled. You could vaguely remember someone patting your back gently. They stroked your back and asked if you were okay, and then... You were almost afraid to ask what happened next, but your insatiable curiosity was greater than your feelings of embarrassment. Well... He scratched the back of his skull, looking at you with a mix of amusement and pity. It happened like this. Dogs are just so wonderful, you sobbed.
Positively possum.
You ignored the pun and continued to cry while cuddling the dog. By this point, you were lying down in the dirt in a fetal position, still blubbering about how great dogs were.
Look, buddy, as much as I'd love to continue this doggone conversation, you should really get home,
the voice said as he wrapped his arms around you in an attempt to get you to your feet. You stared at him like you just noticed he got there, and you started shaking. Oh my god, it's you! It's my boyfriend! You started swatting at the arms, still trying to lift you. I'm still so sorry! You hiccuped. Wait. Let me. Shit. Okay. You struggled to stand, but once you were on your feet, you fell into the skeleton's arms.
What are you doing?
What does it look like I'm doing? I'm hugging you to apologize. Unbeknownst to you at the time, you were not giving the skeleton a hug. You were awkwardly petting him, much like you were with the Pomeranian not even 5 seconds ago. Your hands ran up and down his ribs and skull as he stared at you, white lights getting smaller.
Yeah, it's time for you to go.
You felt bony hands pushing you away, but keeping you steady on your feet. No! You wailed. Pal, no! You cried again, wiggling out of his grasp. He let you go, and you fell to the ground with a thud. Your stomach began to churn. It was too much movement too quickly. Oh, I don't...
Bud?
The voice said as he knelt down a bit to hold your shoulders.
You okay?
You promptly threw up on his slippers. A little bit of water. I am so sorry. You couldn't even look at him in the eye sockets anymore. Your focus was on your feet. Your face was hot, and your heart was thumping wildly in your chest. Twice you had humiliated yourself in front of this guy. Twice.
Don't worry about it, the skeleton said lightly. No skin off my nose. Pause. If I had one, that is.
Please don't tell me that there's any more to this story, you begged.
Nah, you passed out after that, so Paps brought you in and settled you down on the couch.
This didn't really bring you a sense of comfort. You drank the rest of the water in silence. A few more minutes and another glass, and you should be ready to leave. You peeked at the skeleton through your peripherals. He was lazily leaning up against the counter. Silence felt too awkward. You chanced small talk. So, where is Papyrus?
Work. He paused. He's very upset my girlfriend's yet to come by and eat his spaghetti, by the way. You should. He's a pretty good chef now. I'd say his spaghetti is impossibly good.
You were starting to get a good picture of this guy's sense of humor.
You were about to comment when a thought hit you.
Wait. Did you not tell him we weren't actually dating?
Nah.
Why not? He shrugged. Does he not think it's weird that you haven't seen your girlfriend in weeks? He shrugged again. You should really tell him that we're not dating.
Nah, he's all excited about it now. You can do it, but then you'll just disappoint him.
You felt your stomach twist.
You didn't want to disappoint Papyrus.
You didn't want to disappoint anyone. But you couldn't pretend to date someone to appease him. You shook your head. You resolved not to come back to this apartment. It wasn't your job to keep Papyrus happy. You swallowed your embarrassment and your pride, placed the cup back into the sink, and left the kitchen. You grabbed your bag that was lying by the couch and slung it over your shoulder. Without as much as a goodbye, you left the apartment for, hopefully, the last time. You could feel the skeleton watching you, but you didn't dare turn back around. You decided that maybe you would keep your oath to stay off drinking. Alright, that'll do it for part 1, folks. Subscribe, turn on notifications for Part 2. See you next time.